I always thought I was a good man, a husband, a father, a son who did everything right. But that illusion shattered the day I met Valeria again. The memories of our past were intoxicating, a dangerous pull I thought I could resist, but I didn't. Natalie, my wife, had always been the picture of love and patience. She trusted me, loved me deeply, and yet I craved something forbidden, something reckless. It started innocently, a coffee after work, a smile too long, a memory we whispered. But soon the innocent became obsession, and obsession became betrayal. Elena, our daughter, watched us with those innocent eyes that I loved more than life itself. Every laugh, every hug, every bedtime story I shared with her felt like chains that bound me to a life I was quietly destroying. I was living a double life, and with every secret message, every stolen moment, I could feel the walls closing in. I remember staring at my reflection one night, thinking, "Jacob, what are you doing?" But desire is a powerful liar, convincing you that the ruin you're creating is somehow worth it. And so, I stepped further down the path of destruction, blind to the heartbreak I would soon unleash. It wasn't long before the first betrayal left scars no apology could heal. Natalie began to notice subtle changes, the lingering glances, the late nights, the faint scent of someone else. She asked questions I could not answer honestly, and with every lie, I buried myself deeper. "Jacob, I feel like you're slipping away," she said one evening, her voice trembling. Her trust, which had been my anchor, was dissolving with each choice I made. I tried to rationalize, to convince myself that love for Natalie did mean I couldn't indulge my past desires, but every word I told myself was a lie. And Valeria, she encouraged me, stoked the fire of temptation, reminding me of the thrill of being wanted, of being desired in a way I hadn't felt for years. I was a man divided, and the line between right and wrong no longer existed. Elena, though young, began to sense the tension. Children are more perceptive than we give them credit for. I would find her staring at me with worried eyes, sensing the secret, feeling the fracture forming in her world. "Daddy, are you mad at Mommy?" The question stabbed through my chest. How could I explain that her father, the man who promised to protect and love her family, was the one tearing it apart? How could I reveal that the adult world was filled with selfish desires that even love could not restrain? Every smile I forced, every hug I gave, felt like a lie. I was living a nightmare in broad daylight, and Elena's innocent questions were reminders of the moral abyss I had chosen to enter. The betrayal escalated. Secret meetings, whispered phone calls, and stolen evenings became routine. Each time I returned home, Natalie would smile, oblivious to the danger creeping into our lives. But every glance from Valeria reminded me that this path was irreversible. I began to feel the tension rising, not just at home, but in my own conscience. I would sit alone at night, heart pounding, thinking about the family I was destroying, the daughter I was failing, the wife I was betraying. I tried to convince myself it was temporary, a mistake that would be corrected soon. But temporary had no meaning here. Every choice I made dug the pit deeper. And with each passing day, the distance between me and my family grew wider, until the love that once defined our home was now buried beneath lies, deceit, and longing for something I shouldn't have wanted. The first cracks began to show. Natalie caught a message I thought I deleted, a small glimpse into the chaos I was orchestrating. Her eyes, once filled with trust and love, now held suspicion and fear. Elena watched, sensing that something was wrong but unable to understand what. "Jacob, what is going on?" Natalie demanded one evening, her voice breaking. I froze, words failing me. Every explanation would be a lie, every confession a disaster. The fragile facade I had maintained for months began to crumble, revealing the devastation I had been creating behind the scenes. In that moment, I realized the beginning of the end had arrived. The family I loved, the life I cherished, the trust I had once taken for granted, All were hanging by a thread, ready to snap. And I knew deep down there would be no coming back from this. Natalie's eyes were no longer the warm, trusting eyes I had fallen in love with. They were sharp, suspicious, and full of doubt. Every glance I stole felt like a lie. Every word I spoke was dissected for hidden meaning. She didn't yet know the full extent of my betrayal, but she felt it, like a storm gathering on the horizon. "Jacob, I can't ignore this anymore. Something is wrong." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of accusation and heartbreak. I wanted to reach out, to explain, to convince her that this was temporary, but I knew the truth. No explanation could undo what I had done. Elena noticed it too. The tension in the house made her withdraw. She no longer laughed freely. She no longer trusted our family unit. Each day, her young heart absorbed the chaos, unknowingly adding layers of emotional scars I feared would never heal. Valeria's presence was intoxicating, yet dangerous. Every interaction with her reminded me why I had chosen this path, but also of how hopelessly trapped I had become. She didn't just want me, she wanted all of me, every moment, every secret, every stolen hour. Our encounters became more daring. The thrill of deception mixed with fear of discovery, creating a rush I couldn't resist. But as the weeks passed, I began to notice subtle signs. Natalie growing more aware, Elena asking questions too pointed to ignore, and whispers from others starting to reach our ears. Every stolen smile from Valeria became a dagger to my conscience. Every night, I returned home to Natalie and Elena, carrying the weight of my duplicity like a lead vest, suffocating me with guilt. Inevitably, the first confrontation came. Natalie caught a phone message, one I had thought deleted. Her face was pale, eyes wide with shock and hurt. "Jacob, is this true?" The words cut through me like ice. I wanted to explain, to justify, but even my own reasoning felt hollow. Every lie I had told was now exposed in fragments, revealing the monster I had become in the eyes of the woman I once loved. Elena stood behind Natalie, her small hands clutching her mother's arm, eyes full of fear and confusion. She didn't understand the adult complexities, but she understood betrayal, and that understanding hurt far more than any words could. The confrontation was short, sharp, and devastating. I realized then that there was no turning back, no patching the broken pieces. I had crossed a line, and the family I had cherished was now on the brink of collapse. Word spread quietly at first, then more openly. The whispers, the sideways glances, the subtle comments from friends and colleagues.
If this story hits you, you can support the channel with a quick hype.
They all added to the weight on my shoulders. Marcus, Valeria's husband, began to piece things together, tension rising with every encounter. I tried to maintain control, to convince myself that I could manage both worlds, but the facade crumbled faster than I anticipated. Every secret meeting, every whispered conversation became a ticking time bomb. The people I loved most were starting to turn away, and with every rejection, my sense of guilt and isolation deepened. Even Elena's school performance began to suffer. Her once bright eyes now carried shadows of worry, her laughter replaced by hesitant smiles. I was not only betraying my wife, but also stealing the innocence of the one person who had no say in any of this, my daughter. By this point, I was spiraling. Each day, the regret became heavier, yet I felt powerless to stop it. I could see the cracks widening in Natalie's heart, the strain on Elena's young mind, and the inevitable confrontation with Marcus looming like a storm I could not outrun. I would sit alone at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I had done. The fantasy of forbidden love had turned into a nightmare. My choices had consequences that no man could undo. Every glance at Natalie's sorrow, every tear of Elena, was a mirror showing me the depth of my failure. I realized then that desire is a dangerous master. It promises pleasure, yet delivers devastation, and I had become its slave at the cost of everyone I loved. The first real storm came when Marcus, Valeria's husband, discovered fragments of our affair. A message I had carelessly left open, a photo misdirected. Suddenly, the truth was out. Marcus confronted us, his anger a living thing, sharp and biting. "Valeria, Jacob, how could you?" The words hit like a hammer. I watched as his world shattered, just as mine had begun to unravel months earlier. I realized then that betrayal doesn't exist in isolation. It's contagious, destroying everyone around it. Natalie, already struggling with my own lies, now had to witness the destruction of someone else's life because of me. The guilt twisted in my chest, heavier than I could ever describe. Natalie's composure broke. I had underestimated her, thinking her love could forgive anything. But seeing the breadth of my betrayal, the involvement of Valeria, and the pain inflicted on Marcus, her anger became volcanic. "How could you, Jacob? After everything, after Elena, after us." Her voice was raw, filled with disbelief and fury. I tried to reach her, but the distance between us was insurmountable. Every lie I had told, every stolen moment, now screamed louder than my apologies. Elena clung to her mother, tears streaming, sensing the severity of the fractures. I had destroyed the safe world my daughter knew, and there was no turning back. Valeria's reaction was as dramatic as the situation itself. She didn't plead, she didn't cry. She smiled, a cruel half-smile that confirmed she knew the power she held. Her affair was no secret anymore, and Marcus, devastated, walked away, unable to forgive. In that moment, I understood the full cost of desire. Not only had I ruined my family, but I had become the agent of chaos for two others. The lives of Natalie, Elena, Marcus, and Valeria were now irrevocably entangled in a web of pain. Every confrontation, every glance, every tear in that room confirmed one thing: I was the epicenter of destruction. Elena, my daughter, no longer looked at me with the same trust. Her eyes, once bright with love, were clouded with disappointment and confusion. "Daddy, why?" How could I answer her? How could I explain that the man she loved, who was supposed to protect her family, had chosen betrayal over love? Every word I could offer was meaningless. Every attempt at comfort felt like another lie. Natalie held her close, whispering assurances, but I knew those reassurances could never fully heal the damage. My choices had stolen my daughter's innocence, her sense of safety, and her trust. By this point, the family I once cherished was in ruins. Natalie, furious and heartbroken, considered leaving. Marcus, shattered and betrayed, walked away from Valeria. Valeria herself faced the consequences of her actions, and I, Jacob, was left with nothing but the echoes of my own mistakes. Every house, every room, every memory felt poisoned. The laughter that once filled our home had been replaced with tension, silence, and tears. I had traded happiness for desire, love for lust, and in return received emptiness, regret, and isolation. The spiral was complete. My actions had created a storm that could not be weathered, and I was standing at the center of the wreckage, finally realizing the true cost of betrayal. The final straw came when Natalie, exhausted by betrayal and heartbreak, decided she could no longer stay. Every attempt at reconciliation had been met with reminders of my deception. "I can't do this anymore, Jacob. I won't watch Elena suffer because of you." Hearing those words was like a blade twisting in my chest. My wife, my partner in life, was walking away with our daughter. Elena clung to Natalie's hand, her small frame trembling, and I felt a weight crush me like never before. I had imagined apologies, tears, maybe even forgiveness. Reality was far crueler. My choices had driven away everything I loved. Valeria faced her own collapse. Marcus, unable to forgive, left her life completely. She tried to justify her actions, but the damage was irreversible. Her charm, which had once ensnared me, now felt hollow and meaningless. I watched the woman I had desired so desperately crumble under the consequences. Every stolen moment with her now seemed like poison, leaving only regret and isolation in its wake. Elena, my daughter, confronted me one evening, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. "Daddy, why did you ruin everything? Why did you betray Mommy?" Her words pierced me deeper than anything else. I had always promised to protect her, to guide her, to be her hero. Instead, I had become the villain in her young life. The realization of the pain I caused her was unbearable. Every tear she shed reflected back at me the life I had destroyed. My role as a father, as a husband, as a man who was supposed to uphold love and trust, was gone. Now I am alone. My family is gone, my friends have withdrawn, and the lives I once influenced with love are poisoned by my choices. Every night I sit in silence, haunted by the laughter I can no longer hear, the smiles I can no longer see. I replay every decision, every stolen moment, every lie, wishing I could turn back time. But time doesn't forgive, and the past cannot be undone. My loneliness is a reflection of the chaos I created, a mirror showing the true cost of betrayal. Sitting alone in the empty house, I realize the cruel truth. Desire is temporary, but consequences are permanent. I traded love for passion, trust for lust, family for fleeting pleasure. And in return, I received emptiness, regret, and an unbearable loneliness. The echoes of Natalie's anger, Elena's tears, Marcus's heartbreak, and Valeria's downfall surround me like ghosts. I am left with nothing but the bitter understanding that some mistakes cannot be forgiven, some betrayals cannot be mended. And as the nights stretch endlessly before me, I know I will live with this pain for the rest of my life. Alone, broken, a man destroyed by his own hands.
If you've ever felt this kind of pain, don't walk through it alone. Hit subscribe and stay with us. More real stories are coming.